What is going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today I want to talk to you about Rivian. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down, what's been coming out associated to the company itself, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that said, let's get right to it. Starting off, on Friday, Rivian did go down 2.07%, so it kind of piggybacked off of the broader market. In reality though, over this last little bit, Rivian has gone up quite a lot to somewhat the overbought status. Near the tail end of this video, I'm going to go over the technicals and everything else, but 21.3 million shares were traded on Friday. 36.7 is the average. So that's one very positive thing when it comes down to Rivian, is institutions have been paying attention to it. And that can't be said for a lot of other growth stocks, because especially what Powell said, he was somewhat hawkish, and I think the broader market, they only want to hear interest rate cuts. And based on the consensus, it looks like around for the September meeting, September 18th, 2024, there's a 61.1% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut, and then a 6.6% for a 50 basis point cut. So in reality, that's what obviously the market is interpreting as the next big catalyst that could somehow save the broader market. But still, when it comes down to Rivian, institutions really like it still and have been buying quite a lot. So just on Friday, there was a couple of big transactions, 2.22 million, 8.7 million, as well as 2.73 million. Based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price, majority of the transactions were buys. Of course, there was a good amount of selling that has been happening, and plus a lot of the selling that has and did occur on Friday was linked to more algorithmic trading. And obviously with the broader market selling off, AI is just being told to sell off Rivian. When it comes to news, there hasn't really been all that much ever since their announcement of the second generation of R1S and R1T. I've already covered that in, I guess, the last Rivian video. The only new thing that did come out was this right here. So on the 12th, there was a Form 4, and that Form 4 did show that RJ sold some shares. He exercised his rights, stock options right here. So he did obtain 71,429 shares at a price of $2.62. So obviously you can kind of see that linkage right there. And then transaction code S, that is a straight up sell. So it wasn't to do with the stock price. He didn't think that it was peaked, because all of this was already tentatively planned as of March 8th, 2024. Just so you are aware, this transaction did occur right here on June the 10th, and it was at a price, average price of $11.49. So in reality, it's like, I get that it kind of looks bad, but at the same time, like, he needs to be paid. And plus, even aside from that, he does have a lot of shares. So if he was kind of liquidating a good chunk of his shares, then yeah, I would be somewhat concerned, but he still has 2.6 million shares. So I don't think anyone is overly complaining. So let me know your thoughts on this if you think it's bad. Again, the fact that it is planned as of March the 8th, I think this kind of gives everything an okay. And so I think when this did come out on that Wednesday or whenever else, it did cause a lot of volatility. So obviously the market didn't really know how to interpret this. But aside from that, going over some things, starting off with shorts. Friday shorts did increase 2.39 million shares. 18.39% of the free float is being shorted. That works out to be 130.19 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 64.04, and then cost of borrow average 1.05%. As I've said in the past, I do not see Rivian being a squeeze play because of the clear metrics that is there. But I'm just bringing this up as more of an analysis. So by shorts increasing on Friday and obviously Rivian selling off, kind of shows that they feel it's justified. Plus, on a side note, shorts have actually returned quite a lot over this last little bit. At its peak, it was around 21.47%. So that's kind of a overall positive if you ask me. There was that recent conference that Rivian did participate in. And so that was the Deutsche Bank. I believe it was on Wednesday, if I remember correctly. I did live stream that, but I think in reality, it was nothing really crazy to be said one thing that they did reiterate was the fact that because of their shutdown, their kind of output for Q2 is very low, and that they obviously pointed out that they let investors know about that and everything. One thing that I just wanted to bring up is analysts might be a little bit too optimistic for their upcoming Q2 earnings, so they might be setting themselves up for failure. So when it comes down to it, these are some of the latest analyst ratings. There was a new one that came out yesterday, no price target given, but a buy rating. And I thought this was Deutsche Bank, but Deutsche Numis, if I'm saying that right. Ross, who does have a 74% success rating. So I think he's probably the best EV analyst out there, because normally you get like this kind of stuff, like 39%, 45%. Actually, you know what? Not too bad. I know a lot of the other ratings are like more like this. Andre Shepard, 23%, 36%, and whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, still 74 is rather high, a good buy rating. As a consensus, I still do feel analysts really do like Rivian. And there was a new one as well 4 days ago, $20 price target, Canaccord, and George, who has a 39% success rating. So obviously that one is more of a new one since my last earnings. But back to my point, going over to this, so the analyst forecast, this is why I do feel like they're setting themselves up for failure, because looking right here for the revenue estimates for Q2, there's around 20 analysts with a consensus of 909.37 million. Roughly 4 weeks ago, it was 9 estimates with a consensus of 926. So one new analyst did jump on board and being very, very bearish, because like I said, it went from 926 to 909 million, but logically, based on what was said during the conference, I feel like it would be probably around the 700 to 800 million, in my opinion. So I don't know. I feel like right now analysts have too high of expectations. So kind of setting up Rivian for failure when it comes down to that. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out down the pipeline. And as far as estimates right now for Q2, it's negative $1.18. That's based on 17 analysts. And that did actually move lower from $1 or negative $1.15. So just to kind of give you an overview, there is still roughly 2 weeks still in Q2 for them to kind of change the dynamic or whatever else, but it is fair to assume this is probably going to be roughly where it sits, in my opinion. So we'll just have to wait and see what does come out. But like I said, I feel like analysts are setting Rivian up for somewhat of a potential miss on earnings per share and both revenue. Moving on to data points though, on Friday you had 5.1 million in calls, 2.11 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 44% of all the options being done on Friday were bullish and optimistic, but right now with shorts increasing on Friday that amount, probably a lot of that was them just covering and hedging, right, with call options. Of the call options that were purchased, there is a consensus for it to be roughly between that or in excess of $12 by this upcoming Friday, so June the 21st. And then looking at puts, you do see it on the flip side, sub 1050. And so when it comes down to the Elliott Wave technicals, I'll go back over to interactive IBKR for a second. It does have a pivot point of $10.40. So for as long as Rivian is above that, then it is kind of anticipated to hit between this $14 and $15 mark. If obviously the broader market does continue to sell off and it does go below this pivot point, then it is anticipated to get back into kind of that $9 range or the high 8s. So it's going to be a lot of volatility. You can tell that based on the fib levels, very wide gaps, but I don't know. What's your thoughts? Do you think that we're going to be hitting 15 sooner, or do you think we're going to be retracing back into kind of the 9s? What's your viewpoint? On a side note, if you're looking for a lot of good compiled information, all very much free, take a look at Interactive Brokers, link in the description below and also the comments. So highly recommend taking advantage of that. But moving on though, looking on the actual support and resistance points going into this upcoming week, with it right now at $10.88, it landed exactly on this S1. So we do know that's a strong support. We'll just have to wait and see what does come out for this upcoming week, because right now the fear and greed index isn't all that great. It is in the fear category at 38, so people's appetite for risk isn't necessarily there. And as well for this upcoming week, you also do have retail sales, so consumer data, and especially with what Powell said, that's going to be a very clear indication of how the market is doing, right? So that's going to be one big thing. And plus there's a lot of Fed speakers this week that could cause a lot of volatility. So definitely watch for this S1 to continue to be tested, and hopefully it does continue to hold. Vice versa, $11.36 is going to be the next strong resistance slash target for Rivian. So hopefully it does kind of just bounce off of this and trend back into high 11s, or possibly even touching between this R2 and this R3. I think that was the high from Thursday. But on the actual chart itself, so on Friday it did transition from the higher to the lower percentile of the Bollinger Band. It also did kind of retrace back from that 100-day moving average, so it might just be trading between kind of that 50-day moving average and that central Bollinger Band right here. Stochastic, you do see it was very overbought, kind of flipping to somewhat neutral right now, but you do see a very bearish deviation, so red line above the white. And a number of retail investors have been getting out. It looks like ever since the 11th. As far as why, I'm not really sure. Maybe there's some correlation possibly on that day associated to RJ selling, or it just might be broader concerns. So let me know your thoughts on Rivian. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.